Welcome to the Brave Voice Women's Circle. Today I'm speaking with Debra Driscoll. Debra invites women to be her, the woman who is reclaiming her intuitive wisdom and aligning her leadership. She's the founder of BeHER Collective, a global movement for women that activates women to be the heroine of their story. She's also the author of the Memoir, a series of surrenders, a memory of grief, where she shares her experience of the loss of her son. Debra, welcome to the circle.
Thank you so much. It feels nice and warm to be here with you.
Wonderful. It's such a pleasure to have you. But before we talk about your book or grief, I'd really love for you to tell us more about your son. Tell us about what you want us to know about who he was.
Mm, that is such a beautiful opening question. I love talking about Sage Joseph Driscoll. So Sage came into the world on the 5th of May, 2002,
Oh, wow.
came through exactly as he is and was, which is a unique young man who, even when he was really little, he was like an old man. He had his ways, he knew himself, he could take life a little bit more seriously than me, but he was definitely a unique young man. And when he was about 8, turning 9, he decided that he was a famous inventor. So, one thing to know about Sage, which didn't necessarily define him, but it definitely colored his world and therefore everyone who interacted with him, is he had Asperger. So he was very definite and he could get fixated. And so when he was about 8 or 9, he decided, I am a famous inventor. And I thought, oh, well, this is fun. Sage is a famous inventor. But then 9 turned into 10, and he was still so focused on being a famous inventor. He didn't want to be a famous inventor. He was.
Mm-hmm.
He was just waiting to finish this thing called school so he could get to his inventor lab. He had like elaborate designs of the lab and everything. And when he was about 10, and this is like not very long before he passed away, I started to fear for him that he has this dream and he's so fixated now. It's been almost 2 years. I was like, what if this doesn't come true? His heart is going to break.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would start giving him just some things to consider with his famous inventor dream. And he would always consider them. He was very serious. He considered everything, took his time in his consideration. And he would always come back within a day or two with a very clear response
Oh,
to
wow.
what I saw as an obstacle. He was able to see it so clearly. And it's one of the great gifts he gave me in his living
Mm-hmm.
years, because I realized as his mother, I was more connected to fear than the dream of possibility. And so when I let go of the fear that this dream may not come true, I became the mother of a famous inventor.
Wow. What a gift. I
Mm,
love that he helped you see sort of the or embrace the beauty of possibilities.
absolutely.
'Cause
Yeah.
often we don't let ourselves feel into possibilities because of that fear that we're not going to get there. But it's
Yeah.
such an expansive feeling to be in
Yeah.
that.
And also, it really taught me how much fear we project onto others.
Hmm.
So we're trying to protect them
Yeah.
or to keep them away from one of life's hurts or harms. Whereas, really, we could all just actually set each other free.
Yes, absolutely. In these kinds of experiences, there's usually like a before the experience. There's a life before, and then there's a life after. When you look back, what do you remember most about those early days?
So, the life before, so Sage was born in 2002 and he died on April 3rd, 2013. So, 1 month before his 11th birthday. And so I had 10 plus years of, earthbound reality of being Sage's mum. And I will say a lot of that was really hard for me. I was a single mother. And I often felt like I either wasn't doing enough or I wasn't enough, or being a single mother kept me from doing the things I wanted to do in the world. Like there was a lot of tension inside me, but between Sage and I, there was an immense amount of love. Like another thing that he taught me was just to love the person exactly as they are. Because when he was diagnosed with Asperger, that was a grief for me as a mother. I already felt like I had like a black mark because I was the single mother. And then to be the single mother of a child who went to the special ed department at school because of the Asperger, I was like, can this get any harder? Like it just felt for me as the mother like a journey that didn't give me much rest. And at the same time, it was really fun. Sage and I were able to have fun, and we were able to understand each other and give each other the space that we needed. And when Sage would call me his best friend, I really felt it. Like I felt the connection between us. And it didn't come easy, like Sage was figuring out the world as a kid with Asperger, where the world asks you to be really social, and that's overstimulating for him, where most people in the world didn't understand him. And where I spent a lot of those 10 years plus trying to figure out what's actually going on, and am I doing a good enough job, or am I going to screw up this kid? Is he going to be in therapy in the future because of what I did? So it was a whole yes and. It was a big journey within the 10 years and 11 months that we took together. But not very long before he died, the anxiety did rev up a little bit more. Things were changing in Sage, and I didn't know whether this was preteen, another part of his Asperger. I was definitely on an edge of, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I could feel something is shifting. And so,
Did you know if there was a life expectancy?
No, because so Sage died of lymphocytic myocarditis, which is a fancy way of saying the outer wall of his heart was attacked by a virus. And it's a very rare and random condition. They don't know why it happens. It happens to kids and the elderly. And when it happens, there's no way to know. So you just feel like you have like a virus, like a cold or a flu, but it's not even cold or flu because you don't have snot, you're not sneezing. You're just feeling a little bit under the weather. And because Sage was the wise old man, he would take care of himself. He never complained. And so the days that his heart would have been under pressure, he didn't say anything to me or to anyone about how he was feeling. It was also school holidays, so we were relaxing with family. He was watching a Harry Potter marathon, like lounging in front of the TV. I was like, let the kid rest. It's school holidays. School is really hard for him because it's so stimulating. And so there was no warning at all until, the morning I woke up and Sage didn't.
Wow. That's quite the shock. I think I didn't quite understand that because I thought maybe there was sort of a life expectancy. And I could sense your stress around that point where he started, like something started happening and you didn't quite know what, like you just said, like, is he being a teenager or like something is shifting? And for whatever reason, when I was reading, I thought you were sensing that, like, his life expectancy.
I think part of me was sensing that. So part of my grief journey is understanding that there's so much in the world that we can't touch or name, but we are still receiving that information.
Yes.
I could feel it. Like I could feel the tension rising. And also there's this one day where I'm sitting at my desk in the back space of the house that we lived in together. And Sage came to me to interrupt me. And I was thinking he was going to ask, can I eat a snack or can I turn on the TV? That's generally what Sage would come to me for. right? Because he didn't actually have a lot of requests. He really was excellent at finding his own world and playing inside there. So when he came to interrupt me, I was expecting one of those requests. And instead he said, you know what, Mum? All day I've been thinking. Then he paused. So I think he was like, make sure you're listening, Mum. And I said, what have you been thinking all day, Sage? And he said, well, all day I've just been thinking, I wonder if it would be better if I wasn't here at all. And I remember my heart going up into my throat. My whole body got tense. And I said, Sage, why are you saying that? And he said, I've just been thinking it today. And I said, don't say that. I don't want you to go anywhere. You're supposed to be here. You're supposed to be here with me. And then to him, it was like, yeah, well, you know. And then he just kind of wandered off. And I was left there at my desk again, really being like, what is going on? Like, what is going on with my son? Like, in the last couple of months before he died, I actually found a child psychologist that we had a connection with, and we'd only gone for one appointment because it took me a while to find the right person that I thought, yeah, you'd be able to connect with Sage. And I remember saying to him, you know, Sage, we're going to this appointment because it's really important that you know that you can have happiness, that whatever feeling, that there's a way to find happiness for you, the way that you're going to be happy. And he understood that. He didn't like having to go to the doctor's appointments and to the psychologist, because I think he could also feel something shifting, but neither of us could name it.
Yeah, the way you explained it now, I got a completely different impression than when I was reading the book. Like in the book, it was more like, you know, like as a mom, you're heartbreaking because your child thinks you'd rather not have them around. But when you were just explaining it now, it felt more like it was a thought like any other thought. And
Yeah.
he's simply expressing it. And maybe there was a bit of a knowing, and he's kind of warming you up to that inner knowing.
Yeah. And also maybe warming himself up to that inner knowing too, you know, because that was the other thing about Sage. The Asperger was there was no gray or variant colors. The world is black and white in his world. It's either right or wrong. And so this was just something he was considering. He didn't necessarily have a lot of emotion attached to it. It was thought that he was pondering.
Yeah.
And so it became interesting to him. It was me who had all the emotion about it.
Yes. I had all the emotions about it too, but the way you just described it now, I think I saw it a little bit more from his perspective. So after going through this experience, what would you want people who have gone through grief to understand? Or what do you think is a big misunderstanding around it right now?
Mm. Mm. The thing about my journey, which I'm so grateful to myself for, is I didn't drop everything that I believed. So as somebody who has strong spiritual practice, who works in natural healing, works with women and their intuition, like this was a huge part of my life. So I believe that everything happens for a reason. I believe the universe always has our back. I believe that there's a plan and a soul direction, even if we can't see it. Like all of these things that can be like throwaway lines or taglines in, you know, the spiritual practice world, I actually believed and still believe. But when your son unexpectedly dies, you really start to wonder, how is this in my highest good? You know, and instead of turning away from what I believed, I doubled down and I chose curiosity. And I was like, I'm going to find out why. Why has this happened to me? And more than why has this happened to me? Why do our hearts break? Like, because one of the things my mother's heart also held on to is the grief that I was feeling Sage in his life never had to experience. Because the only way to get out of grief is to be the person who dies first. And we all love in this life. And we will all lose people that we love. unless you're like Sage and you're the one who dies first. You know, like he also didn't lose my mother. He was really close to my mum, his grandmother. That would have absolutely devastated him if my mother had died within his. And so he didn't experience it, but I was. And I was really aware that this is a part of the human journey. So why do we have this as a part of our journey? And why do we shrink away from it or feel like it's the worst thing that's happened? And it's horrible when someone that you love, it's devastating, it's crushing, and it's also unique. But the thing that I want people to take to heart, literally, is grief is not about what you have lost. Grief is about your heart. Because what I found in my grief journey, because I went on a big journey, I traveled the world with the curiosity. I asked the big questions, and I stayed in the center of the story to find out why. And what I discovered is that our hearts break by design. Our hearts are made to break. They are supposed to break. Because when they do, we place our focus there and we tend to their repair. And when we are tending to the repair of our heart, we are strengthening it. And when we strengthen our heart, our soul expands. So that a way to understand it is this. If you want to develop bicep muscles, you pick up a hand weight and you do some bicep curls. If you're doing enough of them with enough of a heavy weight at a good repetition, you will get a day where after doing the exercise, your bicep will be sore. And that's how you know you've done a good job. You've worked the muscle. But what's actually happened inside the muscle is the muscle fibers have broken because of the weight, because of the exertion. You've literally broken muscle fibers. That's what hurts. And so then the body heals itself by pulling those muscle fibers back together. When those muscle fibers come back together, they come back stronger. That's what builds the muscle. The same thing happens to our energetic heart. I'm not talking about the human heart that beats the blood. I'm talking about our energy heart, our center of love and connection. When it breaks and we work on pulling those fibers back together, we strengthen the capacity of the energetic heart. And that's what the soul wants. So hearts break, but souls bounce.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. And I don't think I've ever heard it that way. Bringing your attention back to your heart. It was heart expanding just listening to you say that. Yeah, like I do think you see through new eyes, and I think because we start to see more from the heart instead of from our head as we experience these.
Absolutely. But the heart I have now is dramatically different than the heart I had as a mother or as a teenager or a young woman before becoming a mother. It is just dramatically different. What I see as potential and possibility in the world, my compassion, my willingness to listen a little bit longer. I mean, and my heart is still learning a lot, like still learning a lot. Like my husband will tell you, like my heart needs to learn it's okay to not be right every time. You know, like we're all on the learning curve of getting better or figuring out our lessons, right?
Yes. There is no there.
There's no
We're
there.
always on the way. Yes.
And I think that's the other thing about grief. Like, I think grief is spoken about as a journey. And rather than seeing it as a journey where I just need to get to the destination and then I'm going to feel better, it's the journey that is what creates better. Because it's not necessarily going to take the pain away as we wish, but it is going to bring you new understanding, a new connection to your heart, the opportunity to learn about how you love. Like that's the gifts of grief. That like she will be tender, and I call her she grief, because to me grief is like a big beautiful angel with big wings, and If you need to, you can crawl into her lap and she'll hold you with her big wings. When you can slow down and be with her. And I think another thing about grief is because we're so scared of it, we like onto the edge of it. Because I remember early in my grief journey, I had part of me which was committed to doing the best damn job a mother has ever done at grieving her child. I was like, I'm going to do this well. Not that I knew what I was doing, but I felt like to honor my son and also to hold my integrity as a woman in the world. And I also didn't want people to pity me. Like, that's not something I'm into. I'm like, no, I'm not turning up to the pity party. That's not how this chapter goes. But it really invites you to spend the time with yourself and your heart, because I've guided a lot of people through grief journeys and I've been the guide, but I'm not the healer. The person is always healing themselves.
That's beautiful. Again, I love that invitation to come back into your heart. I would love your perspective on this. Just you touched on it, and I'm just going to say what you said, but in my own words. For me, like when these things happen, often we blame, like outside of ourselves, like, why is this happening? We kind of push it away. And I tend to think it was the only way. Like there's a lesson, there's a learning, there's an experience, like there's something that you're here to do or to experience or to learn. And that sadly was the only way to get it. It's kind of, I don't know if you watched I think it's the Avengers. I'm gonna like my husband is more the like I watch with him. I'm not really into the series, but I think it's the Avengers, like where the time person sorry for watching on the word, where the time person kind of goes into his time loop and figures out all possible scenarios, and he comes back and there's like only one possible scenario where they win. Um, I don't know if you watch that, so that might be completely off, but it kind of defends my perspective of if you go through all the scenario, like all the ways to get what you want or the outcome that you're here to get, it's like that was the only way through. That was the only way forward.
Yeah.
What's your thought on that?
Like I believe that is true. And I think it's a yes and. I think there's some parts of our lives where there is one core narrative, and this is what you are going to experience, and it's for this reason. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe that there's other parts of our lives where we do have choice, whether we choose to go left or right. And I think we are this
Oh,
and that
yes.
so much,
Yes.
But
Yeah, yes.
in my experience, about, I'm going to say about 5 to 6 weeks into the grief journey for me, I met anger. I was just so angry, not at the world. I was angry at angels because I had felt like the angels were there to protect and love. And I needed to blame somebody. So I blamed the
Mm-hmm.
angels. And I literally, for days, had this ongoing screaming fight with angels, asking them, why did you take my baby away? And for 5 days, I stood at the back door of our home, and it had 5 wooden steps that went down to the back garden. And I threw anything that would break
Oh,
that back door so that it would smash.
yeah. I
I,
did that as
yeah,
well at some point in my life.
yeah, just the smashing. I was like, I'm like, this is what it feels like on the inside of me. And I was
Yeah.
so angry. But then what
Yes.
followed the days of smashing is I actually went away on my own to a friend's holiday house in a weird, small little coastal town where nothing really happened and I didn't know anybody. And I spent 12 days alone. And I went with the intention of I wanted the angels to answer my question. And so every day I would write in my journal, I'd walk down by the sea, I'd try to meditate. I was trying to just be available to what this answer was, because I felt like I really needed it. Like the anger had ebbed away, but I felt like I couldn't move forward until I had this answer. Why did you take my baby away? He was mine. I was looking after him. Why did you do that? And one day, days and days into the 12 days, I'm down at the water. And one of the things I used to do in the early days of grief is I would run really fast so that my heart would beat really fast. And then it would like explode in a sob so I could get emotion out. And so I was running to exhaustion, and I actually collapsed underneath the shade of a tree by the sea. And as I was just laying on the grass, catching my breath, I heard the voice that's not mine that said, nothing went wrong that day. Mm-hmm. Sage was always going to die. You were always going to stay. And in fact, the two of you planned it that way. Mm-hmm. And that's when I realized like this was our soul path, like that he was always going to leave. I was always going to stay. And again, it doesn't take the pain away. No. Like a new pain comes then. I'm just like, this is one of my soulmates. So not only did you take my baby away, now my soulmate's gone. Because I also believe we have more than one soulmate. They're not always the, Hollywood romantic soulmate. And so it was another kind of grief of like, I only had 10 years and 11 months with one of these amazing soulmates of mine. But now I understand, because in the work that I do now, I couldn't do the work I do now without fully understanding grief, without fully understanding how does a woman put her life back together again when it's been smashed or destroyed, whether that's death, divorce, a diagnosis, or a dream that doesn't come true. As women, we all go through these big transformations. And because I have gone through one, I know the way through. And it's also built this heart within me that is able to hold the stories of women and hold the realities of our journeys, to be able to say, there's more than that. Like you work through where you are, you build your heart, it gets stronger, and then so do you.
Beautifully said. I love that. I mean, I think that embodies the both and that you referred to earlier. Just, yes, like we're having a human experience. We're going to have grief and anger and all the emotions. And there's this understanding that it's for our growth, potentially preordained, potentially this is a pact you made with your soulmate to experience what it is you're here to experience. And perhaps that was the only way forward for that to come to pass.
And the thing is, we never really know.
No.
We never really know. Because I've asked myself the question, would I give up everything that I have now if I could get Sage back? And there's some days where I'm like, of course I would. Of course I would. And then there's other days where I say, but that would actually be a downfall of my soul.
Mm-hmm.
Be the right move to make. So it's complicated, there's no easy answers to this, which is why my book is called A Series of Surrenders. Like we just have to surrender again and again and again, not only in a grief journey, just in life.
That's beautiful. That was going to be my next question. Your book being called A Series of Surrenders, because like you just expressed, we're constantly in that state of surrendering. What would you say you had to surrender to? Like one thing, if you had to name one.
Letting go has never been easy for me in this life, and nor is patience. I like to go fast and I like to keep the things I love. And so the Sage and his many gifts. One thing that I'm still learning, actually, really, letting go and patience. But that's where I had no choice. Like, it was like, you don't get to decide to keep or to let go. It was like the let go has been forced upon you, Debra. He is gone. And so it was this whole new edge of letting go. And then patience, because you cannot rush a grief journey. You cannot. And I really wanted to. Like, if I could, I would have bargained parts of my soul if it would have got me out of some of the pain earlier. Really would have. And that's not possible. It takes the time it takes. And all of those cliches, you become living, embodied cliches, and you knowing that it's going to take the time it takes. And so letting go and patience, I'm still learning now, but that was like the biggest classroom of those lessons and they sustained for years. Like, the journey isn't like the 1 year of my life where I figured it out. It took years.
Wow. It's an incredible journey that you've been through, and I'm so glad that you chose to share it. What do you think made you think that you needed to share it, like to write a book or to share it with the world?
Yeah, well, again, this was something that was seeded really early in my journey when I was at that seaside town in a long conversation with angels. After they told me that this was supposed to happen, and it's nothing went wrong that day, the next piece of information I was given was, and you and Sage are going to work together. In fact, you're going to write a book.
Oh.
And so I spent the next days away scribbling notes and writing things so I could remember what was happening. And so for the whole first year, I was not writing the book, I was documenting, gathering data, and being in the role of like the lived experience researcher. And so I think it was another by design thing, because a series of surrenders, I'm really clear about the fact that, yes, it's my story, but it's a story at service to grieving hearts so that people can understand their own grief and their own journey in a way that I hope supports them through a lens of love and soul expansion. But beyond a series of surrenders, Sage and I have continued to work together. He turns up in my work a lot, as he's one of my master teachers. I tell a lot of stories about him. He comes through meditations. There's people who know and have worked with me who never met Sage, who met me after he died. They feel like they know him. He's so present, and it's now been 13 years. And this is the beautiful gift of a soulmate. You never actually lose them.
Mm-hmm.
Relationship just changes. So my son isn't earthbound, but he's never actually left.
Mm-hmm. It actually makes me think there's a scripture where the apostles don't want Jesus to leave, and he says it's better that I go, because when he's physically present, he's one, but when he's gone, he's everywhere. He's all things, which,
Yeah, I feel that.
yes,
That.
he can be everywhere
Mm.
like all at the same time and always with you wherever you are. So yeah, that was beautiful. What do you think writing allowed you to see or understand that just living through the experience might not have?
Mm. I mean, this may sound strange when I first say it, so everyone just stick with me here. Writing my grief journey, the book, A Series of Surrenders, was one of the most delicious, indulgent, creative processes of my life. Like, diving into the narrative, to be able to take lived experience and create narrative around it, to be inside the creative process and to find that the key themes that emerged from the writing. No, I didn't decide what the key themes were and then put them in the book. It was in the process of writing the book that key themes came through the process. And it was so engaging, because I thought before writing the book, I was like, how am I going to go with this? Like, I'm the middle child of 7. I like hanging out with the gang. I'm very social, extrovert. Writing a book is, it's you on the page. But what I found was it was me in the page in every corner of my imagination, every color inside the crayon box. It was just absolutely delicious. And it also wasn't like the cathartic process I thought it was going to be. It was more an understanding that sometimes what we experience in life, yes, it's for us, but it's also for the collective. Like being able to share my story in a way that is like, I don't see a series of surrender as my story. Like when I published the book, I literally wrote a poem where in the poem I share with the world, I share this now with you. You hold this now. It's no longer mine. Of course, I'm still living the story because we're talking about it now. But I was so clear that this book is, yes, it's my story, but it's not about me. This is about how can we embrace grief without shrinking and allow grief to expand us, because that's what grief wants to do.
What would you want people who have a story, maybe like yours or different, because we all experience grief differently, but they're afraid of being judged or being misunderstood? What would you want them to know?
I mean, first, the story has to be for you. First, just write. Like, pour your heart out onto the page. Find narrative. Try writing in third person so you can get a little bit of distance. Like, but just make it about you and create the internal safety for yourself. Because not all experiences need to be shared. And you get to decide if it's going to be shared. And if you're feeling like you are going to be judged, then that is the edge that you're at. So you don't try to convince the world not to judge you. You figure out, why am I fearful that I'm going to be judged? It's actually your job, not the world's. And you get to decide if it's published or not. But I believe everybody in the world should be writing, because it's so healing. Our hearts, our minds, our spirit. Like I'm a Dear Diary girl from young, probably from when I could start writing my name. I have always written every day. And I can't imagine not. And I wish more people in the world did, because it's a loving act for self.
And I think it allows you to see the experience from different perspectives. Like it expands.
Yes. Absolutely. It's a healing act. Creativity and healing are best friends. They want to hang out together all the time, and you are invited to the party.
Yes. So what would be, if you could choose just one word to describe what your relationship with your son is today, what would that word be?
Dynamic.
Oh, wow. Beautiful. And what do you hope to offer women through your presence and your story?
Permission to be exactly who they are, and then speak and write from that place.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here, Debra. I really enjoyed talking to you today. And your wisdom and insights are unparalleled, is the word I would use. It was truly inspiring, heart expanding, a real pleasure. Thank you for saying yes to this interview.
Thank you. Big love.
Big love.